Hi everyone, for today's book review we are going to travel to the turbulent Middle East and we are going to check out Abandoned Lebanon. This book by Youngles Publishing follows the standard layout of books by this publishing house. They have many volumes documenting abandoned buildings within countries, so this book is just a follow-on of their continuing series. There's Abandoned Spain, Abandoned Japan, Abandoned Australia. They have even one about Chernobyl and Baikonur. And this book does what the series does best, and it provides us with these absolutely stunning images of once grand buildings that have been, for whatever reason, abandoned to the forces of nature. The photographs of this book were taken between 2019 and 2021. And they focus mainly on abandoned houses and structures between the 19th and 20th centuries. So you have a lot of archways and doorways. Dare I say that there's almost too many doorway shots, particularly in the last third of the book. But they are exquisite. The quality is absolutely stunning, not only in the technical and not only in the technical brilliance of actually capturing these shots, but also in the visual composition. These photos show that a well-captured image can speak 1,000 words. And with a lot of these images, you're thinking, what happened to these once grand structures? You know, once beautiful balls and parties and grand affairs were taken in these buildings, and now they're just completely abandoned and falling to pieces. And also, you know, what horrors of war occurred within some of these walls. Anyone who has a basic understanding of the Middle East will know that it's been quite turbulent, to say the least. And for countries such as Lebanon, this has severely impacted their architectural legacy, which is all the more sad because in Lebanon's case, it has such a rich heritage. And in particular, in the last 200 years, you have architectural elements from Ottoman and Moorish, even Venetian elements in some buildings, right through to Art Deco and modernism and even the most cutting-edge 1970s trends. And all of this just blended together, and unfortunately through the Civil War, a lot of it was destroyed. And this book captures that destruction. The book follows a series of abandoned buildings across the country, and a chunk of the book is dedicated to the capital, Beirut, and its port. And while there's a lot of focus on houses and domestic architecture and archways, particularly in Beirut, it would have been nice to see some of the other buildings, such as the Beda, which is Arabic for the egg, which is an unfinished cinema building. A photograph of it is featured, but there is no description of it. The large and still abandoned Holiday Inn would also have been a great addition. It is still one of the tallest buildings in Beirut, and due to difficulties with ownership, it still stands abandoned, with bullet holes still in the ruins. So that would have also have been good to have been added. However, the book does acknowledge and does show the effects of the Beirut port blast that occurred in August 2020. And it's just so sobering looking at a lot of these buildings. There's one palace, palace, where the owners had spent 20 years rebuilding and restoring their palace after the horrors of the Civil War. And just as they had almost completely finished their renovations, the port explosion basically set everything back to zero, and they had to repair the damage all over again. And you can see the images there. As I look at these images, I'm reminded of a song from the 1970s, the iconic Lebanese singer Fayrouz. She had a hit back in the 70s whose song title was Irja ya Beirut, Irja lal Ayyam, which roughly translates to Return Beirut, return to the days, implying return to the glory days, the days of glory, happiness, peace, prosperity. And seeing those photos, those lyrics of that song do echo in my mind, and as you go through it, there's a great sense of melancholy and sadness. It is, however, not all doom and gloom, and readers of this book can also help the people of Lebanon, as well as the organizations trying to restore a lot of these heritage buildings. There's the Beirut Heritage Initiative, and you can check out their site and help them there. There's a link in the comments down below. It is a stunning book. It is an evocative book. It is a melancholy book, and one that I was just amazed to have a look through and to just appreciate all of these stunning buildings. And I'm filled with hope that as Lebanon tries to overcome its massive political and societal issues, that down the track some of these buildings will be given the tender loving care that they absolutely deserve, so that this rich heritage can be restored. As a photographic book, this is a 5 out of 5 captain's hats. However, should this book go into another edition, as I said, sprinkling a little more variety with some of the types of ruins would be great, especially such as the Holiday Inn or the Egg Building. But this is a stunning book. It's an eye-opening book, and it shines a light on a country that you don't normally think about when you think of abandoned places. And if you are interested in learning more about Beirut itself, I have 2 other book recommendations for you. There's The Magisterial Study of the History of Beirut by Samir Kassir, which looks at Beirut from its Phoenician origins right through to the 21st century. And another interesting book, I don't know how this is going to appear on the image, it's got this holographic cover, but the book is called Beirut's Memory, and it is a trilingual book. It is both English, Arabic, and French. And what people may not be aware of is that at the end of the Lebanese Civil War in the early 1990s, the city Beirut underwent a massive reconstruction on a scale that has not been seen since the big European reconstructions of 1946. And this book documents the successes of that reconstruction, with a great deal of the city being restored to its Art Deco, Ottoman, Moorish glory. This book, however, was published at least 20 years ago, and I'm terrified to compare the photos of these with modern photos, because I'm sure some of these wonderfully restored buildings were affected by the Beirut explosion, which adds to the incredible tragedy and sadness of the story of Beirut and the story of the Lebanese people. However, for more stunning photography, especially for those who enjoy the before and after images, do try and hunt this book down, Beirut's Memory. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this brief look at abandoned Lebanon. If you love abandoned places, do check this book out. The location gives it a different flavor from other books. And if you are interested in learning more about this beautiful country and its fascinating capital city, well then check out the books that I displayed further. So do check it out and do enjoy.